Now we're beginning to sew it off on the back bed. So this is a little bit harder sew off than the front bed, because it likes to tend to grab those front bed needles. So again, I'm trying to keep it on a little short amount to pull through. Then I'll pull through them all. There we go. And see, now I want to pick up that one. Okay. I'm going to try and shorten it down by holding it with my left hand so I can have a little bit better control over the yarn that I'm taking off. My weights are now touching the floor, so it's making it a little bit more difficult. So I can take care of that by grabbing one of my Passap weights, here, and just hanging it. I'm going to put it on the back bed, not on the front. Just hanging it, just clipped it in anywhere down there, just to give me a little weight to make these stitches where they're a little weight on the stitches, so that they're easier to work with. And that makes that a lot easier to work with now that I've got a little bit of weight back on these stitches. Okay, we're going to now take off the last stitch and sew it off. And I dropped it on the floor, but I did catch that last stitch. So we're going to bring it up. We're going to take the weights off. Going to take the cast on cone off. There we go. We dropped the needle on the floor, sounds like. But we want to go ahead and get this last stitch here sewed off, which was right here. Okay, so it did sew off. So what we have here is we have these sides that we're going to cut them off here a little bit. And we had our yarn break earlier on us, so we have a little extra here. So these we're going to work off into the inside of the hat before we close the hat up. So I'm just getting off some excess yarn out of my way so I don't have any problems with it. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to come through and we want to pull this through. We want to take the yellow tool. We want to pull those two colors through onto the inside. Now you can weave it, as some people do. If I was doing a fancy expensive dress, I'd weave it too, but this is a hat, it's not going to show, so I'm going to tie it about 3 times. I'm going to give it a little cut, and then I'm done with it. So I'm going to come in here with the yellow tool, pull these threads in, catch it with my yellow latch tool, pull it through, and again I'm going to give it a little tie, the 2 colors. And that's short enough, I'm just going to leave that like it is. Now I'm going to come in here and get this gray. I'm going to pull it through. I want to make sure it's going to kind of have a nice little look, so that's fine. And I'm going to get in here and I'm going to tie that gray off. I'm doing it loosely, not tying it down tight onto the yarn or onto the hat. And I can give that one a little trim. Now we have to work the waist joint off at this edge of the hat. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it in thread this on to a double-eyed needle. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start, and we cut that waist yarn string off short so that we could work it through, because we don't have any place to put our hands right now into the stitches. So when that first stitch that we work off is part of that one. So here is the first open stitch. So we're going to work that yarn off. And I don't have any weight or anything on this yarn, so I'm going to get that out, and then I'm going to catch that open stitch. Okay. So see, there's that open gray stitch. We're going to catch it with our thread. And now you can see that this is an open stitch, so we're going to catch that. And then I'm going to work that thread off. A little more secure if you can do it that way. Now, I still can't quite get my hand in there. So here's the next open stitch. So we're going to sew that one. Now, still I'm going to cut that thread off because it's getting a little fuzzy. We want to keep that thread short. So basically, we're sewing the open edges of the hat off, like we did on the machine, except that we're taking it off of waist yarn. So there we go. Now I can get my hands in here. So now I can open it up, and I can see where the open stitches are. So if you see this narrow stitch, that is not an open stitch. It's this longer one that's the open stitch. So here's my open stitch, and I can go in and out now of my stitches. So I'm basically going in and out of that, and I want to make sure I do the gray. I don't want to pick up this light blue, because then I've got a problem, because I'll lose my stitches. So now I'm just going to start sewing them off. Now what I can do here is I can cut the blue thread, make sure it's the blue thread, and I can grab the end and pull it off, and that separates it out for me some more. And there. So here's my open stitch again. And so now I'm just weaving again. And that gives me, I now have room to get my hand in here and start working. So we're going to do this all the way to the end. And once we do that, then we'll be ready to close up the hat. Fold it over and close it up. Okay, we have now worked all those waist yarn stitches off, and we're going to pull this gray tight. So we just want to work everything in. Get that tied up nice and tight, tight as we can get. Now we're going to take a couple of stitches in and out of the gray, just to make sure that it ties off. So I'm going to go, I went that way, now I'm going to go this way. Just going to kind of make an X, like that. And I want to make sure I trying to keep it to where it tightens in the middle there. So I've done 3 stitches now in the middle of that to keep it nice and tight. I'm going to go through the center. I'm going to put my hand up through the hat. I've got through the center. I'm going to bring that through the center. Now I'm going to take, and I'm going to, with my hand on the inside, I'm grabbing that, and I'm just working this hat down. So now here I have that part. I still have the gray I've got on the needle. I can go ahead and take that off. Just hold on to that. Now I'm going to take the green yarn, and I'm going to bring that up tight. See, I've got this gray yarn hanging out here. I'm going to bring this green yarn up tight. Want to close any hose. We don't want any hose. Now I've got a lot of this green, so I'm going to cut some of it off so I'm not working with so much yarn. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the green. I'm going to take a couple of stitches. The green yarn is a little bit smaller than the gray yarn, so it's a little bit easier to work with. Now I want to make sure that my top piece, my 2 top pieces stay together, so I'm going to take the gray yarn and the green yarn, and I'm going to tie. Now that gray yarn is not going to show on the green side, most especially if you put a pom-pom there if you want. Okay. So I'm going to take just a few more green stitches in my hat because I want it nice and secure. Take, and I'm going to tie off the yarn. Get a good knot there. I'm going to take my green yarn, and I'm going to just poke it through somewhere and then cut it off, and that puts the yarn on the inside of the hat. I'm going to do the same thing with the gray yarn. I'm going to take it and just poke it through somewhere. Now it's in between the layers. And we're going to take, and we're going to flip the white up. Now we have a reversible hat. We can either wear the green side, or we can wear the gray side out. And that's all there is to it. So happy knitting.